In one lifetime, the world changed fast. Hard times came, and people kept going. Technology sped everything up, and life looked different. We reached the moon and saw tragedies that reshaped how we live. We lost leaders, learned that progress has a cost, and saw medical advancements that saved millions of lives. We had music that stuck with us, businesses that rose and fell, and moments of greatness. And through it all, two people kept building a life, working, loving, and showing up for family. This is the story of William Bill Kovach Covert and Maxine Wingo. Be good, be strong, love everyone.
I was born in Columbus, Ohio in 1937, January the 9th. Well, I probably remember when I was maybe 6, 7, somewhere in there. We didn't have much technology, so we were pretty much on our own. And I traveled by foot. I would go to the bank. I would go to the store all by myself. I'd get on a streetcar all by myself. And we pretty much, in my family, allowed me to go out and pretty much do what I wanted to do, as long as I didn't get any trouble, until about 12 o'clock, when it was lunchtime, and my mom would come out on the porch and start screaming my name, and I would hear it, and I knew it was time to come back in for lunch. Well, high school was in a place called Albany, Ohio. We moved there from Columbus, Ohio, when I was in sophomore in high school. And it was just a small, very small school, because the population of the whole town was only 400 people. So in our class, we only had 35 people. And one of the persons was my wife at that time, was my girlfriend. And I met her while I was in school, and I was a singer, supposedly a singer. And Maxine, who later became my wife, was a piano player. So she played piano for me, and I sang in a talent show. And we kind of got together, and the rest is kind of history, because we married in 1955, and we left town and went back to Columbus, Ohio. 3 girls, and they're all older now, of course, but they all live in the area. We're close by, except one of them is in Springfield, Missouri.
I'm Maxine Lane, now Covert. It used to be Wingo before we were married. And I'm from Hebbardsville, Ohio. It's a little tiny area, and my grandfather had a station there. He had a store where they bought groceries and filled their car with gas, and that was about how big it was. That was the only thing there. That's where I'm born. Well, I was born in Columbus, but then this was in Hebbardsville, Ohio. Yeah, this was when this happened when we were seniors, and Bill and I were real close. The girls were in home ec, and the guys were in class somewhere. Let's go throw some pancakes underneath the doors where the guys are. So we picked up some pancakes, went out in the hall, went to the door, and it was closed. They were in class, and there was a little space at the bottom, and we stood there and we started throwing pancakes underneath the door. And something else, we just had to pick them up and take them back. They didn't get upset. But I have always sewed a lot, and I've made a lot of my clothes when I was younger. And Mother didn't have to buy them. I would get some material, or she would pay for it. And because I was earning a little bit of money in high school, I was staying with my aunt's 2 children, and they worked at night. So I would feed them, cook for them and feed them, and get them ready for school and all that. So that I was getting a little bit of money for that, so I had some. But something else I did, it was sew, as I said. So I had a skirt that was black, and on the sides it had pink strip of cloth with some decoration buttons and stuff on it. So what I did, I went out and got some black material, made Bill a pair of pants, and I split them down the side with pink on them so they'd match my skirt, and we wore them the same day at school. We planned ahead. So that was something else that I just really enjoyed doing, putting clothes on him like that.
Was he in that class when you shoved the pancakes under the door?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Now, there was FFA, Future Farmers of America. FHA was a women's thing.
Future
homeowners of America. So when we were in there, future housewives or whatever, and when I was in FFA, you know how much I know about future farmers? And I was the only one, because I came from a big city. So one summer, I was have to be in school. I had to go to this class, and all they talked about was their cows and all their watermelons and all their corn. That's all they talked about. Well, what about you, Bill? I said, what about me? You know, I just lived in the house where my dad is, because he was a preacher, and right across the house was the church, and we didn't have anything else. We didn't have a garden or anything. And so the FFA guy said, you got to do something, because summer vacation's coming. And after we get back to school, everybody's going to have a report on how things went. And I want a full explanation from everybody. I said, I don't have anything to talk about. I have no cows. I have nothing. He said, do you have a little tiny spot in the back of your house where you could have maybe a little garden? And I said, well, I'll try. So I looked and looked, what can I plant? And I thought, oh, you know what I would like? I'm going to plant some potatoes. So I looked on how to plant potatoes. You take a regular potato and you cut the eyes out of it, and that's your seed. So you dig a hole and you put that in there. You put the dirt back on top. That's what you do. And so my mom and dad went to Florida. We stayed down there for a couple weeks. So I came back to check on my big garden. And when I went out there to look, I was going to water it and all. And all the flowers and the grass and stuff that was coming up was all dead, because we'd had a bad summer. So anyhow, here comes the fall. Classes come back. everybody had to stand up and talk about their experience for the summer. What'd you do, Bill? Did you plant a garden? Yes. How'd it do? Not good. Well, what happened? Did I ever tell you a story? I said, well, everything died. Everything died. We went to Florida, and I didn't have a chance to water anything. And so everything died. He said, well, what did you plant? I said, I planted potatoes. And so everybody in the class just started laughing. And I said, it's not funny. I'm telling the truth. And the guy got all red-faced, teacher. And he realized that I was not kidding. And he said, Bill, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to go home after class, and I want you to get a shovel, and I want you to go out there, and I want you to dig up some of those things. So I came home, got the shovel out, dug out, and there were some of the nicest big potatoes you've ever seen in your life. And that's how they grow. They grow underneath the ground.
So did you get an A?
And I didn't know anything about it. I had such a ball digging up all those things. We had enough potatoes for 3 or 4 months.
So let me go back to the pancakes. So Mama puts pancakes under the door.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is the one I'm going to marry.
I didn't even,
They
I
didn't
don't
know
know.
who did it at
Oh,
first.
She tells me that. I don't remember it, but I'm sure I was in there. I don't know what. My first job was with selling magazines door to door, which didn't go too well. So I only did that for about maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and I had to go out and really find a job. And you got to remember, back in those days, you looked for whatever you could find. And so these companies would have signs out front saying, we're hiring. So you'd pull in and you made an application and you go to the next one. And I finally found a place called Armour and Company. They're a meat packing company. And I became a junior accountant. And I started working for $55 a week. And I really enjoyed it. And about 8 weeks later, I got promoted and I made $60 a week. And I thought, man, I'm on cotton now. So that was my first job. And I worked at that for 7 years. And they closed up in, I'm sorry, I was there 4 years because then they closed. And I was hired by B.F. Goodrich. And I made a career there for 13 years until they closed. And I was transferred down to New Orleans when I was with B.F. Goodrich.
Remember what year that was?
Yeah.
What year was that?
It was 1968. I moved down here in 68 with B.F. Goodrich. We had a location on Jefferson Highway. And I was the manager of the place, 1968. And I was only here for 1.5 years. And that was unfortunate because we had a brand new house. We bought a brand new house in Kenner. And we had to move, sell it. So we were in, let's see, when we moved, we went to Chicago. And we ended up moving from there into Monroe, only there for a short time, and we ended up coming back here because this is where we wanted to back.
So y'all went from Kenner, Chicago,
Kenner
Chicago to West Monroe,
yep,
West Monroe
to New Orleans.
to New Orleans.
Yeah.
When you went back to New Orleans, where'd you?
When I came back to New Orleans, I originally came with Jim Walter Homes, which is no longer in business anymore. And when I left there, I came to Morgan Buildings, and I made a career out of Morgan Building. I was with them almost 15 years, and I got to be a divisional manager, and I traveled all around the Midwest and to the South. And I had 24 offices in the United States. And I did that for 8 years until I came back and settled down in the regular office in New Orleans. So what about you, dear?
Well, when we were first married, I got a job at the credit union at a small town that was not too far away from Buckeye Lake. And I worked there until we moved to Columbus. I believe that's correct. And I didn't work for a while there. I think I might have been pregnant at the time. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I was or not. But anyway, I finally ended up, and this was after we'd had our daughters and they were a little older. I ended up working with State Farm, and I started in Monroe actually with State Farm, and I stayed with them for 27 years. And I worked many disasters all over the United States. Whenever there'd be one, you know, the people there would have to go, or should have, because they look, that's part of your job really. But we had a few that wouldn't work disasters, and I learned a lot. I worked all kinds of storms, volcanoes, hurricanes, all these bad storms. And like with volcanoes, I had to crawl underneath homes, look at the structure underneath. This was in California, underneath the house to see if it was safe. And then I had to tour the whole house looking for cracks. And people don't realize all the stuff that can be damaged when something like that happens. But I had great experience, and State Farm treated their employees great, because I started out as a secretary with State Farm in the claims department, and I went from there to an inside adjuster where I would handle small claims on the phone. And then I was promoted to the field, which back then that was only men going out in the field and climbing roofs and doing all this, burned out houses or whatever. And I did that, and I was one of the first women, just two of us, that got promoted to the field to do the job that the guys had always done. And being a secretary, we did their paperwork and all, and could see what they were doing. I looked at that and I said, well, I could do that. I'm going to apply for that when the opening comes up. So I did get it. And then I spent the rest of my career working in the field, and I became a re-inspector trainer, where I would train new employees coming in and teach them how to climb a roof. In fact, one experience, I went to this insured's home and I had to get on the roof. Well, he followed me up on the roof, and then the poor individual couldn't get back on the ladder to get down. He was a guy, he was full grown, and I had to finally tell him step by step what he had to do, and I did finally get him down. I'm not sure. I worked for 27 years.
She retired in 2000, and both of us retired in 2000.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I always wanted to be out of the country, go to the country. So our first visits out of the country was probably in the Caribbean islands. And we went to the Caribbean islands very often. We've probably been on over 30 cruises. And we've been to all of the countries in Western Europe. And we've been into the Baltic, and we've been into Russia. We've been into Scotland. We've been in pretty much all over Western Europe and beyond. So there's a lot of places we've been to, a lot of places I wanted to be going to, but we didn't have a chance to go, for instance, to Australia. But we've gone to a lot of places where a lot of people have not been having the advantage of going.
We've also been to Hawaii 6 times, and that's where we spent a couple of our anniversaries, like married 60 years, we went to Hawaii. And so that's been really great. And we've also been elsewhere in the United States. We've been to Alaska and many places just all over that would be educational to see.
There's one place that was your favorite. Everything you've done, what place would that be?
Mine would be Hawaii.
And mine would be Venice. Venice probably is my favorite place because you can do so much in Venice, you know. You go through all the canals and get on the canal rides.
The transportation.
Yeah. And also, you know, go to Rome. We've been to Rome. We've been to the cathedral in Rome. And we've been to the Colosseum in Rome. So there's a lot of things to do in Europe that we've been to.
What inventions have y'all that have changed your lives that like y'all couldn't believe happened?
The toilet.
Well, obviously, one of the things that changes your life as you get older, you're going to have setbacks, especially with your health. And my wife has gone through cancer, and I've gone through some problems with autoimmune disease, but there's a lot of people that worse than we are. So we're very fortunate to be where we are right now, health-wise, because we're both in our late 80s and still getting around.
I think mine was World War II. I remember my parents having to have just so many tickets. They handed them out, and you couldn't just go out and buy the food you wanted. And that was pretty much, of course, I was young then, or much younger, and you just kind of go with the flow and listen to your parents a little bit, what they're saying.
Yeah, that was kind of overwhelming because we didn't realize what was happening because the war was going on. And your mom and your father and people in your family, everybody worked in factories because they wanted to get the tanks built and all the military stuff built in order to build up the forces, you know. So that was interesting. And I remember at night, the lights would all go out and there'd be big sirens go off. And that was the exercise that we had to go through in case there was an attack. So there's memories. We're back in the 40s, the early 40s, mid 40s. I've been to 7 Super Bowls and saw a lot of players. We've also followed the team into San Francisco, into Green Bay, and in Tampa. So we've been following the Saints for many years. I was a ticket holder for over 30 years. The good and the bad, mostly bad. So a lot of football, and of course I'm a big Ohio State football fan, and follow those games on a religious basis.
Hello again. We're at the Sugar Bowl, Tulane Stadium in New Orleans, and it is time for the Super Bowl. Hi, I'm Jack Buck. Pat Summerall alongside, and believe it.
When the Kansas City Chiefs played in New Orleans for their first Super Bowl in New Orleans, and they played Minnesota. And Minnesota was supposed to be about a 20-point favorite. And I had tickets in the end zone. But one of my buddies was the ticket master, as we call it now, locally. And he called me up and he said, "William, I've got tickets for you for the Super Bowl." I said, "Well, I already got tickets. I got tickets in the end zone." He said, "No, you want to get rid of those. I got tickets for you in a real good seat on the 50-yard line. And it's the seats that the New York Jets manager could not come." I looked behind me, and there was Vince Lombardi, the head coach of Green Bay Packers, sitting next to college. I can't think of his name now, but he was a star for Washington Redskins. And we sit there all day, and the people just came running up and down the steps trying to get Vince Lombardi's autograph. I felt so sorry for him. But we watched the ball game, and it was a tremendous game, and the coach for Kansas City was Hank Stram. And Hank Stram is all dressed up in a nice blazer, and he walked and up and down the sideline. It was a spectacle that I'll never forget. That was my greatest Super Bowl ever. But just to see him, was really a pleasure, And to think that these seats that we were in was for New York Jet coach. I kept calling him a manager maybe, but he's a coach. He couldn't come. And he had just won the Super Bowl the year before. Mardi Gras was 30. I was in Bacchus for 27 years. We had a lot of experience. The first ride I ever had with Bacchus, it poured down rain. I said, "Oh my gosh, I hope it's not like this every year." That year was, oh my goodness, it had to be in the 80s.
27, wasn't it?
Yeah.
27 years ago.
And we didn't have big masks. We had the mask like the Lone Ranger had, just with the eyes. And when we got that water all over it, it separated. And the front part moved all the way down to your mouth. Oh, it was so funny. It's funny now, but it wasn't funny then. And of course, you get to see a whole bunch of stuff while you're riding. All the girls, want to be showing themselves so you can throw the beads after them. And you were in Mardi Gras.
Yes, I rode in the Irish crew for 10 years. And so we spent Mardi Gras, we'd go down on a Friday and stay through Mardi Gras Day and come home the next day when it was over. So Mardi Gras was very big here, obviously.
I guess you remember that Drew Brees was the king, Bacchus. And that was probably the most, as far as regulars are concerned, that was probably the biggest highlight of my rides.
Oh, sure. We were in the same class. And when there was a new person coming in, he gets, he talks to everybody, and we all, it's such a small class, as he said, and we all just started knowing each other. And the more he asked me to play for him in the talent show, and I also played for the chorus in school. And so it was an easy thing for me to do. And once we started doing that, then our relationship got closer, and we were just so much in love in high school. We graduated from high school in May, and we were married in June. That's how quick it was. And it was a church wedding because your great grandpa was the minister. So that was nice. It was all in the family. And we left our wedding when it was over, went straight to Buckeye Lake, and that's where we stayed rent-free because his parents owned the cottage that we went to. And so that made it much easier for us, because the most we had when we were married and left was $300. Just the fact that there's my husband, and we were just so much in love. It was a wonderful experience, even though we were young. He's always been very kind to me, and he always presents me with surprises on gifts and things, and he's just a wonderful person.
You have to be companions. You can't be just lovers. You have to be companions, and you have to have the same ideas, even if they're wrong, that you'll be able to settle without arguing about it. So we've been married 70 years, so we must be doing something right. Be good, be strong, love everyone, and everything will be just fine if you do all those things. It'll all work out for the best.